Αγαπητοί μας μπασκετόφιλοι, καλησπέρα σας. Εκπομπή ορόσημο η απόψινή για το εγχείρημά μας, μιας και φιλοξενούμε έναν από τους κορυφαίους 50 παίκτες όλων των εποχών του NBA, τον θρυλικό Rick Barry. Ο Rick Barry γεννήθηκε στη Νέα Υόρκη και έπαιξε κολεγιακό μπάσκετ στο Πανεπιστήμιο του Μαϊάμι. Το 1965 ήταν το νούμερο 2 pick στο NBA Draft, όταν και επελέγει από τους τότε San Francisco Warriors. Στην καριέρα του έπαιξε στους San Francisco Warriors, στους Oakland Oaks, στους Washington Caps, Virginia Squires, New York Nets, Golden State Warriors και Houston Rockets. Ο Rick Barry είναι ένας από τους μεγαλύτερους σκόρερς στην ιστορία του NBA, όντως ο μόνος που κατέκτησε τον τίτλο του πρώτου σκόρερ στο NCAA, στο NBA και στο τότε ABA. Τα στατιστικά της καριέρας του μιλάνε από μόνα τους. Έχει σημειώσει 25.279 πόντους, δηλαδή 24,8 ανά παιχνίδι, έχει μαζέψει 6.863 rebounds με μέσο όρο 6,7 ανά παιχνίδι, έχει μοιράσει 4.952 assist με μέσο όρο 4,9 ανά παιχνίδι. Οι 36,3 πόντοι του κατά μέσο όρο είναι οι υψηλότεροι στα play-off του NBA και ο Rick Barry είναι ο μόνος παίκτης που σκόραρε 50 πόντους στο 7ο παιχνίδι των play-off στην ιστορία του NBA. Ο Rick Barry είναι πασίγνωστος για τον ξεχωριστό τρόπο που εκτελούσε τις ελεύθερες βολές. Το ποσοστό ευστοχίας του 88% στο NBA και 90% στο NBA μέχρι και το 1980 όταν και αποσύρθηκε από την ενεργό δράση. Ο Rick Barry είναι πατέρας 4 γιών που έπαιξαν επαγγελματικό μπάσκετ, τον Brent, John, Drew και Scooter Barry, ενώ ο πέμπτος του γιος ο Canyon Barry είναι ακόμα στην ενεργό δράση. Το 1987 εντάχθηκε στο Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Αγαπητοί φίλοι του Basketbook και της εκπομπής μας Retro Stories, σας ευχόμαστε καλή απόλαυση.
Αγαπητοί μπασκετόφιλοι, λάτρεις του αθλήματος που όλοι αγαπάμε, followers του Basketbook, καλησπέρα σας. Με πολύ ιδιαίτερη χαρά θα σας παρουσιάσουμε απόψε σε μια εκπομπή που εμείς προσωπικά, οι συντελεστές του εγχειρήματος The Basketbook, τη θεωρούμε ορόσημο για την προσπάθειά μας. Θα σας παρουσιάσουμε έναν από τους κορυφαίους θρύλους του NBA, τον κύριο Rick Barry, έναν εκ των κορυφαίων 50 NBAers όλων των εποχών, έναν παίκτη ο οποίος συμμετείχε σε 8 All-Star παιχνίδια με τόσες πάμπολες διακρίσεις και προσωπικά ρεκόρ, τα οποία θα τα αναλύσουμε στη συνέχεια, αφού σας τον παρουσιάσουμε πρώτα μαζί με τους συνεργάτες μας, το Χάρη το Γλάρο, το συνδιαχειριστής μου εδώ στο Basketbook. Ο Χάρης σπάνια βγαίνει, είναι μαζί μας από τη μακρινή Ρωσία όπου διαμένει τα τελευταία χρόνια. Καλησπέρα Χάρη Γλάρε.
Καλησπέρα Χρήστο, καλησπέρα σε όλους. Hello sir, it's nice to meet you. Φυσιολογικά ξέρετε, σπάνια βγαίνουμε, αλλά δεν θα μπορούσα να αρνηθώ το να βριστώ δίπλα σε έναν φίλο. Όπως είπαμε και στην παρουσίαση, I like to use, sir, the phrase of Bill Simmons, what it is telling, that you can tell whatever you want about the character of Rick Barry, but for sure you know that he's an interesting guy, so there was no chance that I would miss to be here with you tonight.
Μαζί μας είναι ο Γιώργος ο Καρούλιας, ένα από τα βαριά μας γκανιάν στην αρθρογραφία αλλά και στην παρουσίαση. Mr. Rick Barry, you're very welcome. We're very honored, on the other hand, to have you here with us. Good afternoon in Florida, where you're residing this winter.
Yeah, thank you very much. As I was telling you before we came on the air, that I was hoping to be over in Greece in June, but they canceled the cruise because of COVID. And I've always had that on my bucket list. I love ancient history, and I'm looking forward someday to get over there and get to see all of the ruins and see some of your beautiful country. And hopefully that might happen at the end of April if they start the cruises again. So I'm still planning to get over there and see that and see some of the Greek Isles. I've heard so much about it, and it'd be wonderful to get a chance to visit.
Yes, as a matter of fact, you're very welcome, of course, to come, and ourselves, whatever you may need as far as going around or showing things, of course, we're going to be available. So, Mr. Berry, allow me first to present to you who we are and what our endeavor is all about. We're a small but very dynamic group of basketball fans here in Greece, former and active coaches, pro clubs, general managers, and administrators who started this Facebook page called the Basketbook in order to contribute to Greece's restart in basketball in all aspects. Refine country's basketball philosophy, give ideas as far as structure reestablishment, promote coaching and relevant experts who can advise youth and parents as far as basketball development in conjunction always with academics. And of course, in order for us to implement our endeavor, we try and spot legends like you, sir, who can inspire people and especially youngsters to get initiated to our beloved sport of basketball. For that, I want to thank our, in quotes, agent, Kostas Molonis, who is our ear and eye as far as American basketball players, veterans primarily. And because of Kostas Molonis, you are here tonight, and we thank him very, very much. Currently, Mr. Berry, we're having about 35,000 followers, all basketball junkies like we are, with our numbers rapidly increasing on a weekly basis. We're running 4 different shows at the moment: Restart Basketball, Restart Youth, NBA Restart, Retro Stories like our Tonight Show, while currently we're expanding this endeavor to Cyprus. So this is, Mr. Berry, what we're all pretty much about. Our concern is this sport of basketball, which has brought so much success and glory and joy to the people, to the Greek people in the past decades, to reestablish itself and restart, do the proper restart nowadays.
Well, let me first of all, a couple of things. Number one, first of all, please call me Rick.
Okay.
And that'd be great. And then the other thing is that I just want to compliment you because I really appreciate what you're trying to do, because you're trying to implement the same type of programs that I think that are essential anywhere when it comes to basketball, which is making sure the youth understand that education is the number one thing that they should be focusing on, because that should always be your number one priority, because the chances of becoming a professional athlete in the game of basketball is very, very minute. And so you have to have something to fall back on, and education is the most important thing. So I think that's great. And the fact that you're doing teaching and you're going to focus on the fundamentals, which I think is one of the problems of basketball today in the United States, especially AAU basketball, I think is destroying the game at times. Not all the coaches, not all of them, but a lot of the coaches there, they don't do a lot of teaching. These kids are all just going out there and using their athleticism to play, and it's ruining the game. Plus they're playing too many games, and I think they're breaking them down physically. So I'm glad to hear that you're trying to do the right things. Now, since you guys are all former coaches involved with the Pro League, you got to understand, tell me why in the world you guys need to get my youngest son over there playing. I can't believe that the NBA hasn't given my son a chance to play there. It's crazy. He's such a good player. My other boys played, and he's every bit as good, if not better. So it's a crazy thing in the world of basketball. I don't know what scouts look for, and they get so hung up on the athleticism of players. And my son is a great athlete. He's got a 40-inch vertical. When they did the testing for him, and he didn't get to go for the first and second round draft picks when he came out as the SEC Sixth Man of the Year, even though he should have been a starter. He went to Portsmouth instead, and they did all this testing in 5 areas in both places. Well, I saw the testing in both places. If my son was in Chicago with the first and second round picks, he would have been first in standing vertical, second in max vertical by half an inch, first in agility, first in another one, second in another one, and third in another one. Nobody tested that good. And my son could really play. I mean, it's unbelievable. He was on the World Cup 3x3 team. And and just played. He plays great basketball. You guys as coaches would love my son Canyon. He's an amazing player. So talk to some of the general managers over there, and maybe you can get him over and play over in Greece.
No worries. We got the proper connections, and we'll take a look into that. Actually, myself, I used to commentate NCAA basketball here on the pay-per-view channel in Greece, and it happened for me to know your son when he spent that 1 year, if I'm not wrong, down in Florida.
Yeah, well, he was on Florida, and they didn't start him. He was the sixth man of the year, and he set a record in the history of Florida basketball for the most 20-point games by a bench player. But he played and had to play backup instead of starting, and he played in the position where they didn't run plays for. It was all on the point guards and the two guards. And the only game that he ever got to play a little bit of two guard was a weird circumstance that I won't get into. But he had 30 points in that game. So, I mean, it's a crazy thing. I mean, he can really play, and he's smart. I mean, he's got his master's in nuclear engineering, so that tells you how smart he is. But he knows the game of basketball, and he's a 40% three-point shooter. He's, high two-point shooter, and he's an 85 to 90% underhanded free throw shooter, and he knows how to play the game.
We keep this underhanded. Before I pass you on to Haris and George, I just want to do a short translation of our up to now conversation. Ο κύριος Μπέρι, ο Rick Barry, μας συνεχάρει προφανώς για την προσπάθειά μας, η οποία συντάσσεται απολύτως με αυτά που μας είπε, ότι πρέπει το basketball σε παγκόσμιο επίπεδο, αλλά και ειδικότερα στην Αμερική, που το AAU έχει καταστρέψει το μπάσκετ. Αυτό ισχυριζόμαστε κι εμείς. Παρόλο που δεν μένουμε στην Αμερική, αλλά γνωρίζετε όλοι ότι έχουμε στενούς δεσμούς και παρακολουθούμε τα δρόμενα, αλλά έχετε ακούσει και από άλλους μας καλεσμένους Αμερικανούς και Ελληνοαμερικανούς, όπου λένε τα ίδια πράγματα. Πρέπει λοιπόν το μπάσκετ κατά τον Rick Barry να επιστρέψει πίσω στα βασικά, στην εκμάθηση των βασικών του αθλήματος, γιατί έχει πέσει όλο το βάρος μονομερό στο αθλητικό κομμάτι. Μετά έτσι μας έκανε ένα λογοπαίγνιο υποτύπων σοβαρού και αστείου ότι ο πέμπτος του γιος είναι εξαιρετικός παίκτης και θα ήθελε να τον δει να παίζει στην Ευρώπη και ιδιαίτερα στην Ελλάδα, την οποία συντομότατα θα επισκεφθεί. Την υπεραγαπά, έχει μελετήσει την ιστορία της. Μην ξεχάσω ότι υπάρχει και απόψε, όπως και σε κάθε εκπομπή ο διαγωνισμός μας, μία εμφάνιση Basketbook και ένα καπέλο Basketbook, ευγενική δωρεά και προσφορά της εταιρείας Νίκαν, του μπασκετικού αδελφού του Νίκου του Ανδριόπουλου, θα κληρωθεί στο τέλος της εκπομπής στους σχολιαστές, σε όσους τηλεθεατές αφήνουν σχόλιο, στα σχόλια προφανώς της εκπομπής. Λοιπόν, Χάρης Γλάρος, you can start promoting the Rick Barry show tonight.
It is a fact that I had in my mind to ask more basketball tactics questions to Rick at the end of the conversation. I will try to go by plan. So first I will let people know a little bit about who is Rick Barry. Many people know, many people they don't know, because nowadays youngsters, they tend a little bit to forget about legends of the past, as far as he was one of the best players ever in the NBA, in my opinion, and the opinion of other players. So let's start with one very, very basic question, Rick. Why basketball? I mean, back in the days that you start playing the basketball, I think that it was not even one of the biggest sports in USA. The NBA started as a league that it was just fulfilling the empty days of the gyms. So why did you choose this sport?
Well, first of all, my father was a basketball coach and a very good player himself, and so he taught me the fundamentals, which is really great. And I just tell people the fundamentals are like the foundation of a skyscraper, a building. You can't build a tall building on a small foundation. And so even if you're blessed with God-given talent and abilities, you can only get to be so good, and you'll never get better if you don't know how to use the great talent that you have in the proper manner. So fundamentals are the key thing. And so my father put those fundamentals down. He was a strict fundamentalist. I remember when I played on the 8th grade team when I was, I think I was in the 5th grade when my brother was playing on the 8th grade team. And And if I didn't do something right fundamentally, I would come out of the game. So you had to really pay attention to doing things properly on the court. So I knew how to play the game the correct way. And so that was an advantage. But you're absolutely right. I was actually a better baseball player growing up because my father also played other sports, but he was a great fast pitch softball player. And he taught me how to catch fly balls like Willie Mays with the famous basket catch that Willie Mays had. I know a lot of your younger people probably don't know who Willie Mays is either, but he was one of the greatest baseball players ever. That's why I wore number 24. But what happened is that I was playing junior varsity because I was a skinny kid growing up and I didn't mature until much later. And so as a junior varsity baseball player, I was pitching because I liked activity. And baseball was a little slow for me because I'm a A-type personality. And so I would pitch but I played center field. But I said center field, I might never get a ball hit to me sometimes in a game. I mean, it's crazy when you play center field. So I pitched, and then when I did pitch, I went and I played first base where I get more activity. But I was batting 500, and the coach wouldn't play me when I didn't pitch. And so I finally went to him. I said, Coach, if I'm not pitching, I want to play. I can play every position. I don't want to catch because I had that when I was young, and I know that's crazy. I said, but I want to play. I'm batting better than anybody on the team. Next game I pitch, I go 1 for 2, batting ninth again. The next game I'm on the bench. So I said, that's it, I'm done. So I guess I should send him presents because I went out and focused on basketball and spent all my time working on basketball. In the summer, I would get up in the morning, have breakfast. My mother fixed me lunch, and I'd go to the playground and play basketball all day and come back when it got dark. And got to be a pretty good basketball player, obviously. But the next year, the varsity coach asked me if I would play baseball. And I said, well, if I can play when I don't pitch, yes. So he said, no problem, you're going to play. So I played baseball. I was an all-state baseball player for 2 years. I batted like .460 1 year. And I mean, I hardly ever, I didn't strike out very often, had great hand-eye coordination, but I was a better baseball player. But because of that situation with the coach, I started to focus on basketball, got to love it even more because of the activity of it. And obviously, I went from there, and I never did play baseball. They tried to get me to play baseball in college, and I didn't do it. And I wish kind of that I had done it. But anyway, that's you're right. I was a better baseball player.
Ο Rick Barry, μια μικρή μετάφραση, allow me a short translation, στην ερώτηση του Χάρη του Γλάρου γιατί μπάσκετ. Ο Rick Barry μας απάντησε ότι το αρχικό του, η πρώτη του μεγάλη αγάπη ήταν το baseball, στο οποίο θεωρούσε τον εαυτό του πάρα πολύ καλό, όμως για κάποιο λόγο ο coach του δεν του επέτρεπε να κάνει pitch. Pitch στο baseball είναι αυτός που χτυπάει με το ρόπαλο, να το πούμε έτσι λαϊκά. Το είπε μία, το συζητήσανε 2-3, λέει τι στο καλό, τι στην ευχή, ας πάω να κάνω κάτι άλλο. Και η πλάκα ποια είναι, ότι μόλις μας είπε ότι εγώ θα γινόμουν πολύ καλύτερος baseball, παίκτης του baseball από ότι στο μπάσκετ. Δηλαδή εντάξει ρε μεγάλε, είσαι μέσα στους 50 καλύτερους παίκτες του NBA όλων των εποχών, θα λέγαμε εμείς σήμερα. Στο baseball μάλλον μπορεί να γινώσει ο κορυφαίος των κορυφαίων. I just made a small joke, Rick, because you just said that you were projected, according to you, to become an even better baseball player than basketball. And I'm like, how much better of a baseball player could have been? I mean, you did everything in basketball.
Yeah, well, I mean, as I say, I had great eye-hand coordination. I rarely struck out, and I could play every position. I really was. At that age, I was a better baseball player than basketball player. And obviously, I worked at my craft at basketball and just kept getting better. And that's the thing I think about your young people, anybody listening. You never should be satisfied with what you're doing. I always tried to get better. In fact, I was a better free throw shooter at the end of my career than I was at the beginning of my career because I took my father's technique underhanded and I refined it. And in my last 6 years, I shot over 92%. In my last 2 years, I shot over 94%. So I was a better free throw shooter at the end of my career than I was at any other time.
Μάλιστα. Μας είπε ότι επιπλέον ότι είχε αυτή την καταβολή από τον πατέρα του, ο οποίος ήταν coach του μπάσκετ, τα βασικά. Έδωσε πολύ μεγάλη σημασία στα βασικά, γιατί κακά τα ψέματα δεν ήταν και ο τρομερότερος αθλητής της γενιάς του. Κι όμως εξαιτίας της άριστης γνώσης και κατάρτισης που είχε στα βασικά του αθλήματος, το επαναλαμβάνω, κατάφερε και έκανε ό,τι έκανε και μάλιστα εξέλιξε τόσο πολύ αυτή την ελεύθερη βολή, τη λεγόμενη κουτάλα που λέμε εμείς, όπως το ονομάζουμε εδώ στην Ελλάδα, που στα τελευταία 6 χρόνια της καριέρας του σούταρε με 90% και στα τελευταία 2 με πάνω από 92%. Δηλαδή όσο περνάγαν τα χρόνια, σαν το παλιό καλό κρασί, εξελισσόταν και βελτιωνόταν. Γιώργο Καρούλια, ο λόγος σε σένα.
Hello, sir. It's an honor and a pleasure having you here today. Back in 1965, you were, as a senior player, you were leading the NCAA in scoring. How easy was it for you? How hard was back then to play basketball at the college level?
Well, the game is always easy for me, I think, because my father instilled the fundamentals in me. So I knew what to do. And then fortunately, I was blessed with some God-given natural ability. I was always very quick. I was quicker than guards. So if I had to do it over again, I've spoken to people recently. I said, if I could go back and start over playing, I would be a point guard. And because you can control the destiny of your team. And I would be a distributing point guard. This thing that came up with the scoring point guard drives me crazy. I mean, a point guard's supposed to be like the quarterback. You make everybody, better. You get them involved. You create opportunities for them. And I love doing that as a forward. In fact, I was the first, as they called it, the point forward. I was the first point forward in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And I took great pride in that. And I was one of the few forwards who ever was in the top 10 in assists. And I did that on a number of occasions. And I got more pride out of making a really good pass to a teammate for a basket than I did making a basket myself. When I played, there was only one objective I had. Win any way possible within the framework of the rules. I never thought about scoring. It just came easy to me. And I try to tell people, to score 20 points a game is not a big deal. I mean, when you really break down the game, how difficult is it to score 20 points if you're well skilled? And that's the whole thing. You have to be able to shoot the ball. You have to be able to go left, and you have to be able to go right. And you have to understand that you can get in and get some an offensive rebound or two. So let's break it down. So you play on a team, if a team especially is playing fast break basketball, I'm going to get at least 6 points on fast break opportunities. Okay. If I get 1 offensive rebound in the putback, I've got 8. I'm going to drive and get to the basket, which I really love to attack the basket. I'm going to get 4 or 5 more free throws every game, and maybe more than that. Obviously, early in my career, I'd shoot over 10 a game, and I didn't miss very many of them. So all of a sudden, I'm up like at 12 points already. So I only have to make 4 shots. This is before the 3-point shot. If I make 4 shots out of 10 and only shoot 40%, I'm at 20. I mean, how difficult is that? And so you take more shots and you make a good percentage. So I scored 30 or more points on many occasions, and it was pretty easy to do.
You remind me of Bob Pettit. Bob Pettit also said the same thing about how easy the game of basketball was. And I believe that you were one of the first that had over 500 assists in a season, which was great for a forward guy. It was too rare. And I also remember Luka Neseka, who talked about you that when he made a diagram of a play, that you could see 5 or 6 different options more than him. And it fits now with what you're saying, that the game was easier to you. Who made you? It was your father? Was it later your coach in the university, Bruce Hale? Who was it that taught you that? Or was it you, just you?
First of all, I think my father with the fundamentals is always, one thing. Bruce Hale was great also for me at college. He played pro basketball. He trained me. I had 4 years of basically playing minor league basketball to get ready for the NBA. I mean, we played, get this, no 3-point shot, right? My senior year in 1965, our team averaged 99 points a game in college. 99. Wow. I mean, and that's no three-point shot. And with the guys that I had, the way we could shoot the ball, if they had the three-point shot, we probably would have scored 110 at least. I mean, it was crazy how we were just a juggernaut offensively. We'd get the ball, and we were showtime before showtime. I mean, we really could play. We had great shooters, and all of those people contributed to me. And I love Lou Karnasek. I talk to Lou all the time. I just talked to him, I think, last week. I always check up on him, and he's still hanging in there. And he always tells me, you know, that I was one of his favorite players. But I love Lou. And the reason I love Lou is that he's one of the few coaches I've had ever that actually would ask his team, his players, because he was coming from college to pros, ask our opinion about things. He didn't think he had all the answers. It wasn't like he was a dictator and you had to do everything his way. He wanted input from his players, and then he took some of the stuff. It's not like he did everything we suggested, but he took a lot of the stuff that we suggested and he utilized it, and which I think was really smart, because you can always learn. You always have to be willing to listen. A lot of people don't want to listen. And unfortunately, too many coaches have their system the way they want you to play. And if your skills aren't conducive for that system, you're never going to flourish. And I think that, you know, in football, they get away with it because they have a system. They usually draft for the system, players to fill in that can play that way. Basketball is not so regimented that way. And a lot of guys have a lot of abilities that other players don't have. And I think to really make it work as a coach, and this is what I try to do in the little coaching experience that I had, which I really did enjoy, which I was kind of surprised that I did, is that I would ask my players for a couple of things. I would say two things. I said, I want an evaluation from you of yourself, strengths and weaknesses, offense and defensively. And then I want you to give me 2 or 3 plays that you've either had run for you or you wish were run for you. Now, the reason I did that is, first of all, I know what they can do or not. I want to see if they're honest. Okay. I know what they can do and what they can't do. So that was a test for their honesty and evaluating themselves and being honest. So the second thing was the most important thing. That player with those plays is going to show me where on the court does he have the most confidence in his ability to score and perform at the highest level. So if I have some sets and things that I wanted to run or wanted to put in, can I put the ball in that player's hands in that position? And if I can't, I have to make an adjustment. Or what I would do is I would use his play for him, because I want my players to have the ball where they're going to have the most confidence in their skills and their abilities. And so I just think that that's the way that you need to approach it. And then with players, you also need to be honest with your players. And I tell them, look, I'm never going to embarrass you in a game, but don't embarrass me. If I take you out of the game, I don't want you making a big stink and showing everybody you're all upset that I took you out of the game. Hey, I took you out of the game for a reason, and you need to accept that. And so I'll be fair to you. You need to be fair to me. And I think when you have that, because it comes down to anything, it's a relationship, just like fathers and sons and daughters and mothers and sons and daughters and teachers and pupils, whatever it is, communication is a critical thing, and you have to be honest. And with a breakdown in communication, is when everything falls apart. That's one of the problems we have in the world today, a lack of communication.
Θα μου επιτρέψετε να μεταφράσω στα γρήγορα. Έκπληκτη. Προσωπικά εγώ είμαι έκπληκτος αυτή τη στιγμή, διότι αυτά που επεσήμανε ο Rick Barry τα έχουμε αναφέρει πάλι και πολλάκις, όχι τόσο εμείς αλλά οι εκλεκτοί καλεσμένοι μας εδώ στο Basketbook, ότι πλέον το άθλημα σε παγκόσμιο επίπεδο έχει αρχίσει και γίνεται πέραν του δέοντος δομημένο. Ένας λόγος παραπάνω για τον οποίο δεν παράγονται παίχτες. Στον αντίποδα, το άθλημα του φούτμπολ, του αμερικάνικου ποδοσφαίρου, είναι εκ φύσεως πολύ πιο δομημένο από το μπάσκετ και όντως οι προπονητές εκεί πραγματικά οφείλουν να διαλέγουν παίκτες που ταιριάζουν στο σύστημά τους. Όμως λόγω της φύσης του οδικού μας του αθλήματος έχει μεταφερθεί αυτή η κουλτούρα στην Αμερική τουλάχιστον, αλλά και προφανέστατα και εδώ, τουλάχιστον στην Ελλάδα, κατά την άποψή μας πάντα, και προσπαθούν όλο το προπονητικό σύστημα να εγκλωβίσει, να ξεζουμίσει, να το πω καθ' υπερβολή, κάποια συγκεκριμένα χαρακτηριστικά ενός ή κάποιων παικτών που χρειάζεται για το σύστημα, αντί να προσαρμοστεί το σύστημα στο ταλέντο του εκάστοτε παίκτη. Αυτά μας επεσήμανε μεταξύ άλλων αρκετών ενδιαφέροντων ο Rick Barry μόλις τώρα. Χάρη Γλάρε.
Rick, You talk, and all the time I have more and more questions that they are coming into my mind based on what you're telling. I mean, it is unstoppable questions are coming to my mind. So I have two that they are related to each other. The first is that you told that it is the right mindset of a player, I mean, especially of a point guard, should be to create for others and to pass good. That's why you were the first point forward in the game and all this stuff. And this is something that you present. I mean, how to express it? I have a way. Although, when you get into the NBA, you were mostly based on numbers, a scoring machine. You had plus 35 points in your second season, 37 points per game, and you had 3 assists. When you came back after the ABA journey, your assist went up close to 5 to 6 and all this to these numbers that you told us. So this was a change because it was a change of skill set, because you had time to work more and more in the fundamentals, as you told already that you every time, or it was just a change of mindset. So to be able to pass, it's mostly skill set or it is mindset?
Well, I think it's both, actually. And then the thing about it is, the reason my assists were not really high when I first came into the league is that I played with a great point guard, Guy Rogers, but he dominated the ball. So, I mean, I just tried to run and get myself open. So, I had only, 3 assists, but if I had the ball more, that's why I said earlier that I would be a point guard, because as a point guard, I can score. I can do so much more when I have the ball in my hands. And that's the same little thing we talked earlier about my son Canyon. When he has the ball in his hands, he's never really had the chance to do that. But when he does that, when he did it over in China, he averaged 30 points a game on 60 from twos, 40 from threes, and 90 from the free throw line, plus all kinds of assists. So you have to be able to be put in a situation where you can utilize the talent and skills that you had. But it is having the skills, but also having the mindset. So it's a combination of both of those things. And here's the deal. Is that if I score a basket, I'm happy, right? And it's a good for thing. But how many of my teammates are really happy other than maybe the point guard who got an assist? Well, the same thing for me. If you're just playing point guard and I'm playing, if I'm dishing out to everybody, everybody's happy. Everybody wants to score when they play basketball. I don't care who they are. Everybody likes scoring the basket. So you kind of dish out the happiness, right? Here, you be happy. Oh, here, you be happy. Let me give you one. And then everybody's playing with a much more positive frame of mind, because they feel like they're a part of what's happening and they're having a chance to help the team be successful. And it also makes it way more difficult for the other team to defend them. Because if you have a lot of people who are capable of doing things and scoring baskets, it's hard to defend. And that's why I said, I know that, and I hear this term all the time, lockdown defender. How many times you hear that? He's a lockdown defender. Okay. The reality of it is, the only person that could be locked down in a basketball game is a guy who is just a shooter. A shooter can be locked down. If you're a scorer, you can never be locked down. There's too many ways to beat the opponent. And that's what I always tell people. People said, yeah, well, who was your tough? I said, well, nobody. I said, the guys maybe work harder, but nobody ever shut me down. I mean, nobody was ever going to shut me down, because I could drive left. I could drive right. I can shoot it if you're off me. I'm going to go and get down on the fast break. I'm going to get a sneak by and get you an offensive rebound here. I'm going to drive to the basket. And what people don't understand, they say, well, you got to get by your man. No, you don't. All you need to do is get a half a step and get him on your shoulder. If I get you on my shoulder, I own you. You're done. And you have to do it. And you have to. It's a lost art form. Facing up. Everything today is done off the freaking dribble. It's just pathetic. I mean, you cannot be as effective a basketball player when you're dribbling the ball, because if you're dribbling the ball, just to say, I'm dribbling all the time. As I dribbled it, my teammate, his man turned his head. So what should he do? Boom, to the basket, right? Well, if I just dribbled the ball, how am I going to get the ball to him? But when I had the ball, you watched in the wing, I had it, and I faced my man up, and I would attack him depending upon how he was playing me defensively, but I always had the ball in my hand. My first dribble was always going to be a productive dribble to get myself open for a shot, to go off my teammate, to make him a screener, or to go ahead and get that half a step on him and get him leaning the wrong way. But if anybody ever moved and got open, I have the ball and I could pass it to him. you're so much more dangerous when the ball's in your hands as opposed to dribbling.
Let me translate this, Rick. It's very, very important because tonight you're given a basketball clinic, an old-fashioned but so vivid, so live, so demanding in today's basketball world to the Greek public. Λοιπόν, ο Rick Barry, στην ερώτηση του Χάρη του Γλάρου, τελικά η assist είναι θέμα μυαλού και επιλογής, είναι θέμα ταλέντου. Ο Rick Barry μας απάντησε σαφέστατα ότι είναι και τα δύο. Όπως μας είπε, το ότι τον εκνευρίζει αφόρητα αυτός ο καινούριος τίτλος, αυτή η καινούρια έτσι ιδιότητα του point guard που έχει μετατραπεί από ένα pass first point guard, δηλαδή από ένας point guard ο οποίος κοιτάει πρώτα την μπάσα, να κάνει πρώτα ευτυχισμένους τους συμπαίκτες του, τώρα έχει μετατραπεί σε έτσι μια κατά κάποιο τρόπο κουτρουβάλα κατάσταση και έχει δημιουργηθεί ο όρος scoring point guard. Δηλαδή ο σημερινός point guard σκοράρει κατά βούληση, τριμπλάρει πάρα πολύ, θα δημιουργήσει κιόλας, αλλά αφού δεν έχει βρει την ευκαιρία να εκτελέσει ο ίδιος. Αυτό ο Rick Barry θεωρεί ότι είναι μια πολύ μεγάλη πληγή για το σημερινό μπάσκετ. Επιπλέον μας μετέφερε ότι δεν χρειάζεται ούτε να είσαι τρομερός και φοβερός αθλητής για να γίνει σκόρερ. Μας τόνισε τη διαφορά του σουτέρ από το σκόρερ. Έναν σουτέρ, λέει, μπορείς να τον τελειώσεις, μπορείς να τον κλείσεις, να του κάνεις lockdown, να μην ξανασκοράρει. Ένα σκόρερ όμως ποτέ. Και ποια είναι κατά την άποψή του η ειδοποιώς διαφορά ενός σουτέρ από ενός σκόρερ? Το ότι ο σκόρερ ξέρει πώς να περάσει και με ποιο τρόπο και πότε να περάσει τον αντίπαλό του, αυτό που λένε οι προπονητές, όμο με όμο. Με το που περάσω το δικό μου όμο, μας είπε ο Rick Barry, από σένα, κατ' εμέ είσαι τελειωμένος. Σε κάνω ό,τι θέλω, αρκεί βέβαια να γνωρίζω πάρα πολύ καλά τα βασικά του αθλήματος. Γιώργο Καρούλια.
As Harry said before, the more you talk about the game, the more questions I get in my mind. I wanted to ask something else. Now other questions come in my mind. I really enjoy the conversation. Back then, however, you said about scoring off the dribble, though we have seen many highlights of older basketball players making pull-up shots, something that we hadn't seen in a while and we're seeing a bit right now. How important was the pull-up jumper in your era?
Well, it was a critical shot. I mean, it's an unstoppable shot. I mean, that's the whole thing, is you have to learn how to read the defense. And I learned some stuff. I actually learned something from Jerry West. I got to know Jerry when I was a rookie, and we traveled around playing exhibition games, and we're still good friends right now. But he taught me something that was really cool. When you're doing the pull-up dribble, you need to make the last dribble. I mean, I feel like I'm giving a clinic here. When you, if I'm going to my right, and you have to be able to go right and left. So if I'm going to my right, if I know that I want to shoot that jump shot coming up, that next dribble, when I'm stopping my forward motion with my left foot going down to the ground, I'm going to dribble that ball exceptionally hard, and I'm going to bend down and get it into my hands as fast as I can. Because, and I did this when I was doing a lot of teaching. I would get a stopwatch out, and I let them say, go take your dribble and do a pull-up jumper. And I put the stopwatch on and say, the moment they start their dribble to the moment the ball leaves their hand, how many seconds does that take them? And then I show them how to do it with the way I'm telling you now, where I would plant, go down, get it in my hands, quick pivot up and shoot. And you'll be surprised how much less time it takes you to do that. And that's the difference between getting your shot blocked or not getting your shot blocked. And so it's a really critical element. And those are the kind of things that you have to do. The same way playing offense. When I see how you're playing me, I'm going to attack. Most players play with one foot a little bit in front of the other. Very few players play defense with both feet together at the same spot. If that's the case, depending how you might be shading me, I'm going to attack the one foot that gives me a little extra room to go either left or right. But if they have their left foot forward or the other one forward and playing me straight up, I'm going to attack the forward foot always. And what the key is that most players, when they're doing it, is that they do it too fast. What I'm trying to do to get you as a defender is move. I want you to move. And once I get you to move, now I'm going to try to get you to move towards me, okay? By doing something and trying to basically almost like magic. I'm going to try to go ahead and do something that you think I'm doing something, but I'm going to do something else. Even though it looks like I'm coming backwards, and if you just do the slightest little move forward towards me, that's it. You're done. You're absolutely done. Because even though it looks like my upper body is coming back, my lower body is prepared to go forward. The moment you're leaning, the moment you move your body slightest bit, because by the time you stop that motion, I've got a half a step on you. Because I'm pushing off with my back foot and I'm going forward and I'm exploding and I'm going to beat you every single time. And that's something that's not being taught at all. Players just don't do that anymore. It's a lost art form. And it just makes it so much easier to do that. And then again, it's recognition. When I'm dribbling, when do I want to go up to take that shot? And when you do it, if you do this particular drill, you're going to be able, a quick shooter is not somebody who gets rid of the ball fast. It's somebody that gets up to the shooting position as quickly as can. And you always shoot the ball the same way with the same motion. You don't rush the shot at the end. By doing this, you get to that shooting position on the jump shot much quicker, and then you're able to take the same nice shooting form.
Όπως ακούσατε ειδικότερα οι αγγλομαθείς τηλεθεατές μας, ο Rick Barry απόψε μας δίνει ένα πραγματικό σεμινάριο. Εγώ έχω μείνει έκπληκτος, μου θυμίζει άλλες εποχές, τα ακούσματα που είχαμε και εμείς παιδάκια, είτε εδώ είτε στο εξωτερικό όσοι ζήσαμε και παίξαμε μπάσκετ εκεί. Μας περιέγραψε ακριβώς τη φιλοσοφία και τη στάση του μπασκετμπολίστα στο ένας εναντίον ενός, ότι με λίγα λόγια, ότι εφόσον καταφέρω με το πάνω κομμάτι του, με το πάνω μέρος του σώματός μου να πείσω τον αντίπαλό μου που με μαρκάρει να μετακινηθεί έστω και λίγο, το κάτω μέρος του σώματός μου που βρίσκεται σε στάση τριπλής απειλής και ισορροπίας είναι έτοιμο να εκραγεί σε εισαγωγικά και να τον περάσει, και εκεί πέρα ο αμυντικός είναι τελειωμένος, και μας διαφοροποίησε το βιαστικό από το γρήγορο σουτ και τη γρήγορη εκτέλεση, λέγοντας μας ότι ο καλός σουτέρ δεν είναι αυτός που σουτάρει γρήγορα, που κάνει γρήγορο release, αυτός είναι ο βιαστικός. Ο καλός σουτέρ που έχει γρήγορο σουτ είναι αυτός που φέρνει την μπάλα γρήγορα στη στάση του σουτ. Αυτό είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντικό, γιατί μας ακούνε παιδιά, μας ακούνε προπονητές. Πραγματικά we're very delightful because you are given a clinic tonight here, Rick, to the basic cell of the game of basketball, which is one-on-one. One-on-one is the whole game of basketball. This is what it is. Once you take advantage and you play 5 against 4 or 4 against 3 or 3 against 2, then you're having an advantage.
Yeah, without question. I mean, the game is really a situation of, it's usually, 1-on-1, 2-on-2, or 3-on-3 with the other people trying to keep their people busy. But then again, if you really play it right and you have some good motion offense in, like the Warriors do stuff, pass, cut, move. That's why I love watching them play, because that's how I was taught how to play the game. My father taught me, he said, son, the more decisions you force the defense to make, the more likelihood they're going to make a mistake. And then you have to have players who are intelligent enough to recognize when those mistakes are made, and then you capitalize on those mistakes. That's what makes for really great team basketball. And that's what the Warriors did for 5 years when they had that incredible run. And that's why they were so much fun to watch. So many teams. I'll give you a quick story. I was writing for the San Francisco Examiner, writing a column and covering the playoffs when they won against Cleveland the first time. After the first game, I wrote in my column, the Cleveland Cavaliers will never beat the Golden State Warriors playing their brand of basketball. Why? I charted in that game. This is astonishing to me. 59 possessions. They had either no pass or one pass. 59. Think about that. So how many decisions did the defense have to make playing against them? I mean, nothing. Whereas the Warriors, it's, 4, 5, 6, 7 passes. There's a lot of decisions having to be made. And then I remember in the playoff series when they were going to look like they were going to sweep Cleveland, when LeBron went back to Cleveland. And the game, so they were playing in the game, and it was 3-0, and they give Cleveland credit because they did a great job winning Game 4. They came out really hard. They won the game home. They came back to Golden State. You would think they would fold to 10. It would be over because nobody's come back from 3-1 deficit. Well, they had a lead. The Warriors come back on them, so you think that they were going to give up then. Well, they didn't. Into the third quarter, it was still a close game. But the difference was the Warriors' offense, the way they move and cut. And I don't remember if it was Steph Curry or Klay Thompson coming off of 2 or 3, staggered screens coming out to the far right corner. And it happened to be, and I remember exactly, it was LeBron James and J.R. Smith. They didn't communicate. They both went out to the shooter, worried about the shooter, and the person who was there, one of the big guys, whoever it was, went right to the basket, pass went inside, dunk. 2 plays like that happened, and they blew the game open in the third quarter. But Cleveland was never going to get those kinds of opportunities because they didn't run that kind of offense where the defense had to make decisions. And so that's the beauty of the sport when you understand it.
Μια γρήγορη μετάφραση. Ο Rick Barry μας μετέφερε μια εικόνα, την ατμόσφαιρα, την μπασκετική όσον αφορά το τεχνικό κομμάτι και πώς έτρεχαν την επίθεσή τους οι Cleveland Cavaliers και οι Golden State Warriors. Όταν έγραφε ο ίδιος, όταν αρθρογραφούσε σε μια πολύ μεγάλη αθλητική εφημερίδα του Σαν Φρανσίσκο για τα playoffs, μας είπε ακριβώς ότι οι Cleveland Cavaliers δεν προβλημάτιζαν καθόλου την αντίπαλη άμυνα και συγκεκριμένα υπήρξαν 59 κατοχές όπου οι Cavaliers εκτέλεσαν είτε χωρίς καμία πάσα, κατεβάζω την μπάλα boom, είτε με μόνο μία πάσα. Αν δεν προβληματίσεις την άμυνα, αν δεν κάνεις την άμυνα να έρθει σε διλήμματα, αν είσαι τόσο προβλέψιμος όπως λέμε στα ελληνικά, μετά η τύχη σου να κερδίσεις ένα παιχνίδι, μια σειρά play-off μειώνεται αισθητά. Από την άλλη ήταν και παραμένει λάτρης της επίθεσης των Golden State Warriors με τις 6, 7 και 8 πάσες πολλές φορές στην επίθεση, με τα αλλεπάλληλα cuts και κατά πόσον όλοι αυτοί οι υπερπαίχτες που πολλοί από εμάς εδώ στην Ελλάδα τους θεωρούμε κατά κάποιο τρόπο υπερβολικούς και ίσως και τουρλουμπουκάδες, όπως ο Στεφ Κέρι, ο Κλέι Τόμψον, ο Κέβιν Ντουράν παλιότερα, αλλά και άλλοι μεγάλοι αστέρες των Golden State Warriors, ήταν πάρα πολύ ομαδικοί. Και όσο και αν μας ακούγεται ή μας φαίνεται παράξενο, τα επιτεύγματα του Στέφεν Κέρι και του Κλέι Τόμψον και του Ντουράν ήρθαν μέσα από την ομαδικότητα και από αυτό το ανεξάντλητο passing game στο οποίο επιδίδονταν τότε οι Golden State Warriors. Χάρη Γλάρη, να επιταχύνουμε λίγο τη συζήτηση, αλλά επειδή έχω παραλείψει και υπενθυμίζω στους τηλεθεατές μας να μας στέλνουν σχόλια και ερωτήσεις, θα κάνουμε ερωτήσεις σε λίγο. Και στο τέλος θα γίνει η κλήρωση όπου 2 τυχεροί τηλεθεατές μας θα κερδίσουν μία εμφάνιση Basketbook και ένα καπέλο Basketbook από την εταιρεία Nikan, προσφορά ευγενική της εταιρείας Nikan και του φίλου μας του Νίκου του Ανδριόπουλου. Άρα λοιπόν στέλνετε τα σχόλιά σας να λάβετε μέρος στην κλήρωση. Στο τέλος της εκπομπής 2 αριθμούς θα επιλέξει ο καλεσμένος μας ο Rick Barry. Χάρη Γλάρο.
Rick, so here it's a Retro Stories broadcast, so let's move a little bit to the history, to the stories of the basketball of this huge career that you have. On 1966, you get into the NBA, 65-66, it was the first season, and even in your second season, you lead your team against the team of Will Chamberlain. So you play this final series that you lost actually 4-2, with the first game being overtime and actually with all of the games being on a small point difference in between the teams. Of course, for people that they don't know, you outscore Will Chamberlain in this series as in the whole playoffs. So as a team, you're second year in the NBA. Did you feel that you can win this team that was losing actually only from the Boston Celtics of Bill Russell until then?
Well, we thought we had a good chance against them. For me, I know it came down actually 2 pick-and-roll plays with Nate Thurman, the great Nate Thurman, my teammate who is no longer with us, one of the greatest centers, one of the greatest defensive centers too, along with Bill Russell. But it was a pick and roll with Will Chamberlain, and the first one would happen in Philadelphia, and I wound up passing to Nate, and Wilt came over the back of him, and without question, if you ever have had video of it, he fouled Nate Thurman. In fact, I remember so vividly, the ball came off, everybody had stopped because everybody knew it was a foul, and then we realized the official never blew his whistle. And so instead of us getting a chance to go and have Nate go to the free throw line, we could have possibly won. It was a very close game. We could have possibly won that game. Then in game six, another pick and roll play. The game was close late in the game in the fourth quarter. I came off. I went up to go for a shot. I saw Nate roll. I went to throw the pass. And as I started, Will Chamberlain took the biggest step I've ever seen a human being take in my lifetime and cut off my angle to pass the ball to Nate. And I had to double clutch my shot, and I wound up missing it. The only sad thing for me about that whole series is, even though I know I set a record that lasted for like 40 years or something, an average 40 points or something a game in the finals, I played the entire series with a really badly sprained ankle, and I had to get my ankle shot before the game and at halftime. In fact, nowadays they would never let me do that. I was lucky that I didn't ruin my career, but I couldn't practice. My shooting wasn't as good as it should have been. And I still managed to score 40 points a game. So I got to thinking, what would I have been able to do if I had a really good ankle?
Στην ερώτηση του Χάρη του Γλάρου για τη σειρά των play-off του 1965 απέναντι στη Φιλαδέλφια.
Το 67, το πρωτάθλημα του Wilt.
Το 67, απέναντι στη Φιλαδέλφια, σωστά Χάρη?
Ναι.
Μπράβο. Ναι.
Τους 76ers, πάμε, ναι.
Ακριβώς, τους τότε 76ers, τους θρυλικούς. Μας περιέγραψε 2-3 έτσι κρίσιμα σημεία του αγώνα, στα οποία είτε οι διαιτητές δεν σφύριξαν σωστά, αλλά επιπλέον μας περιέγραψε ένα τεράστιο διασκελισμό εκείνου του τρομερού θηρίου από πλευράς φυσικών προσόντων του Will Chamberlain, όπου ένα κρίσιμο δικό του σουτ του το αλλίωσε και βέβαια δεν μπήκε. Παράλληλα μας μετέφερε ότι σε εκείνη τη σειρά των play-off το 1967 είχε πάθει ένα πολύ βαρύ διάστρεμα με βάση τα σημερινά ιατρικά έτσι δεδομένα και πρωτόκολλα της επιστήμης ιατρικής. Δεν θα του είχαν επιτρέψει οι γιατροί τότε να παίξει, όμως εκείνος επέμεινε, έπαιξε και άκουσον είχε 40 πόντους μέσο όρο σε εκείνη τη σειρά των play-off. Άρα καταλαβαίνουμε όλοι
ένα ρεκόρ που κράτησε για πάνω από 40 χρόνια, Χρήστο, να ξέρεις.
Ένα ρεκόρ κράτησε, όπως λέει ο Χάρης ο Γλάρος, για πάνω από 40 χρόνια. Μάλιστα. Γιώργο Καρούλια.
Να κάνω την ερώτηση. I cannot resist, Rick, I cannot resist not to ask this. I mean, this is the internal question. Bill Russell or Will Chamberlain? Who do you take?
Okay, well, I'm always asked the question, who the best players to have played, and said if I had to play, I'm going to pick the 4 players that I would pick to be my teammates. I'm taking Wilt Chamberlain as my center, but I'm taking Bill Russell as my power forward because I don't need Bill Russell to score a point with the team I'm going to have. Just let him block shots and intimidate and do the things that he did so incredibly well. He had the most impact on a team's success of any player in the history of the game, but he wasn't the greatest center to play the game. Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest center to ever have played the game. So I have those 2 guys, and I defy any team to get to the basket and get a lot of easy baskets. You're not going to see a whole bunch of people going in there dunking on those 2 guys. I can tell you that. And then I'm going to play the small forward, and then I take Michael Jordan as my 2. And the hardest decision I have in that is who do I want as point guard? Because I have a lot of respect for a lot of players. I mean, even nowadays, I mean, I love Steve Nash. I mean, Steve Nash is one of my favorite players as a point guard, mainly because Steve Nash would rather get 18 assists, but if he needed 30 points, he'd get you 30 points. That's why I would take him over John Stockton, who I also love and would love to have played with, because I think John was reluctant to score at times, and he hurt his team by not scoring more points when they needed him. Whereas Steve Nash would go get you 30 if you needed him. But so then I'm talking about those and other great players. Even nowadays, Steph Curry is a guy I'd love to play with Steph as well. Incredible player and shooter. But I have to go with Magic and Oscar Robertson, who I loved and played against, and I have great respect for. But I love that up and down game doing it. And Magic Johnson, because of his versatility. I mean, I did the broadcasting when he played center when Kareem was sick against Philadelphia, and they beat him. I mean, so I got to go with Magic because Magic wants to get 20 assists. He'd rather get 20 assists. And I have to go with Magic because of his versatility. And that would be the 4 players that I would pick.
Στην ερώτηση του Χάρη του Γλάρου, Will Chamberlain or Bill Russell, ποιον θα ήθελε για συμπαίκτη του ή καλύτερα έτσι λαϊκά, ποιος ήταν καλύτερος παίκτης τέλος πάντων. Ο Ρικ Μπάρι μας απάντησε πάρα πολύ μπασκετικά και ορθολογιστικά και μας είπε την καλύτερη πεντάδα όλων των εποχών, αφού έβαλε τον εαυτό του στο 3 και πολύ καλά έκανε και εγώ θα τον έβαζα. Μας είπε ότι θα προτιμούσε κατά την άποψή του ο καλύτερος σέντερ όλων των εποχών στην ιστορία του NBA και προφανώς του πλανήτη. Ήταν και παραμένει ο Will Chamberlain. Στο 4 θα έβαζε τον Bill Russell, αν και ο Bill Russell ήταν περισσότερο πεντάρι, αλλά θα τον έβαζε στο 4 γιατί θεωρεί ότι ο Bill Russell ήταν και παραμένει ο σέντερ με τη μεγαλύτερη επιρροή στο παιχνίδι μιας ομάδας, τότε στους Boston Celtics, χωρίς να είναι ο καλύτερος σέντερ που έπαιξε ποτέ στη λίγα. Στο 2 βεβαιότατα θα έβαζε τον Michael Jordan και στον άσο μας ανέλησε για ποιο λόγο διαλέγει το Magic Johnson, αν και λάτρευε και λατρεύει το Steve Nash όπως και το John Stockton, και μάλιστα μας έκανε και μια αντιπαραβολή μεταξύ των δύο, Steve Nash και John Stockton, λέγοντας μας ότι όταν χρειαζόταν ο Steve Nash θα σου έβαζε τη 30. Όταν χρειαζότανε θα σου έβαζε 15 και θα είχε 18 assist. Ο Stockton από την άλλη, όταν χρειαζόταν να σκοράρει, παρόλο που μπορούσε, κοίταγε παραπάνω από όσο έπρεπε την πάσα και αυτό, λέει, πόναγε. Σε πολλές σειρές play-off πόνεσε τους Utah. Βέβαια διάλεξε, όπως σας είπα, τον Magic σαν τον άσο της κορυφαίας πεντάδας όλων των εποχών, λόγω ακριβώς της ποικιλίας όλων αυτών που μπορούσε ο Magic να κάνει στο γήπεδο, και θυμάται συγκεκριμένα σε ένα match play-off απέναντι στους Sixers, αν άκουσα καλά, όπου ήταν άρρωστος ο Kareem, ο Magic έπαιξε στο 5 και οι Lakers κερδίσανε. Γιώργο Καρούλια.
On June 19, 1967, you made history. We had learned about players going from the ABA to the NBA, but back then you were the first marquee, the first great, amazing player to go to the ABA. Most people don't know about that, but I believe your case was the first that went up to the US Supreme Court. Could you tell us a bit more about that story?
Well, yeah, I had a great second year. I made, first team All-Pro as a rookie and first team All-Pro my next year. I led the league in scoring. I was the MVP of the All-Star game. We came within those 2 pick and roll plays of winning the championship against one of the greatest teams in the history of the game. And I didn't have a lot of fun. And the game had always been fun for me. Bill Sharma was our coach, and he hardly gave us a day off. And it just wasn't a whole lot of fun as far as the way it had been for me. And so my father-in-law was then, who was my former college coach, was going to be the new coach of the Oakland Oaks in the ABA. And so they approached me about going to play for them. And so I had to give it some consideration, but contrary to what people think, I said, well, you know what? Give me your best offer. I'm going to go back to the Warriors and I'll get their best offer. And if the Warriors give me anything close to what you're doing, I'm going to stay. And the Warriors didn't do that. And they gave me a low ball offer, and they opened up the door for me to leave. And basically that's why I did it.
Έχουμε χάσει την εικόνα του Rick Barry, κάνω λάθος?
Mr. Barry, we can't see you. Can you press the camera?
I'm trying to get back. I tried to do something, and I wound up losing the screen. So I'll try to find that. I've got to go and find this. I don't know why it's doing this, but it's crazy. But I lost my screen. I'm back to my home screen on my phone, and I'm trying to find the way to get back. So I apologize for that.
That's okay. Just reactivate the camera.
I got it. I'm back.
Okay.
We're waiting. That's okay.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Go. So anyway, that was it. It was all because, the game had always been fun for me. It wasn't fun. And so I went over and played over there. And I just recently talked to people. If I could go back again and have that same decision to go and sit out a year during the prime of my life, I would not do it. Only provided one thing. If I knew that I could have the wife that I have now, my incredible son, and the friends that I have right now, and my life wouldn't have changed in that regard, and I could have gone back and I would have stayed in the NBA and played there. I think my stature in the league, in the game, would have been totally different if I had stayed and played in the NBA. I mean, come on, I was young. I mean, I just made All-Pro 2 years in a row. I mean, very few rookies ever come out and make first team All-Pro and then lead the league in scoring and the MVP of the All-Star game. And I left. So I'm thinking to myself, what the hell was I thinking about? So, yeah, I mean, it probably wasn't the best thing from that standpoint, but everything in life happens for a reason. And I had a lot of experiences going over, and it led me to where I am now. And I have an incredible life, and I have an incredible wife and an amazing young son. And, God had a plan for me. So that was it.
I would like to ask you something more. Most people don't know much about the ABA. How different was the level of playing basketball in the ABA than in the NBA? And how many there were great players like George McGuinness or Mel Daniels, but was the level as good in the ABA as in the NBA?
No, it wasn't the same. I mean, the difference was that the ABA initially didn't have any great centers like you had in the ABA. Come on, you had Chamberlain and Russell and Thurman and Walt Bellamy. I mean, they didn't have anybody like that. And then eventually they got Artis Gilmore, and they had Mel Daniels, who was an outstanding player, and Dan Issel, who really wasn't a big, strong, center type of person. But the difference was the centers. And so it was an up-tempo, fast-paced game, geared more towards the front court people, I mean, not the front court, but the small forward and the guards. And it was a fun, exciting game. And we had a lot of great players. I mean, you had, George Gervin was there, obviously, but there was a lot of players, Spencer Haywood, a lot of
Roger
players
Brown.
that people don't even know about. Jimmy Jones was another great player. I mean, they had a lot of really outstanding players that most people don't really know about, but it was not on the same level of the NBA. But when we did get Artis Gilmore and stuff, we had and played a couple of games that the NBA wasn't happy about. We played 2 games, the ABA against the NBA. We had some really good games, and it was very, very competitive.
Let me καταρχήν να μεταφράσουμε. Allow me please, Rick, quickly translate what George just asked. Ο Γιώργος ο Καρούλιας ρώτησε μια πολύ κέρια ερώτηση, η οποία ήταν και δική μου απορία. Ομολογώ ότι δεν την είχα ψάξει ποτέ μου και φαντάζομαι και δική σας, αγαπητοί μας τηλεθεατές. Ποια ήταν η διαφορά δυναμικότητας μεταξύ του ABA και του NBA εκείνες τις εποχές? Ο μέσες άκρες, ο Rick Barry, μας είπε απόψε ότι λίγο πολύ ήταν στο ίδιο level. Υπήρχαν πολύ σπουδαίοι παίκτες και στο ABA, απλά η διαφορά ήταν υψηλή. Οι περισσότεροι υψηλοί, οι καλύτεροι υψηλοί μάλλον, ήταν στο NBA. Ψηλοί όμως όπως ο Artis Gilmore είχαν θητεία και στο ABA. Πριν, σε σχέση με τη διαμάχη του τότε εκείνη την εποχή, το 1967, αν άκουσα καλά, σε σχέση μεταξύ των Oakland αλλά και των Golden State Warriors, και την επιλογή του να αφήσει, να μην συνάψει συμβόλαιο συνεργασίας με τους Warriors και να πάει στο ABA στους Oakland, είπε ότι ήταν προφανώς μία αντίδραση τότε της νιώτης του, κατά κάποιο τρόπο επιπόλαιη, για την οποία ναι, έχει μετανιώσει, και με το τωρινό μυαλό βέβαια και την εμπειρία που έχει, τότε δεν θα την έκανε. Να περάσουμε γρήγορα σε κάποια σχόλια.
Να πω πολύ γρήγορα σε αυτό, Χρήστο, πάνω σε αυτό πολύ γρήγορα να πω τα 2 παιχνίδια στα οποία αναφέρεται ο Ρικ. Έγινε κάποια στιγμή σαν All-Star Game ανάμεσα σε NBA και ABA, στα οποία και τα 2 παιχνίδια το NBA τα κέρδισε με πολύ μεγάλη διαφορά και μάλιστα με έντονα διαιτητικά παράπονα από τους συμμετέχοντες του ABA. Αυτό λέει, είναι τα 2 παιχνίδια για τα οποία δεν ήταν χαρούμενοι. Υπήρχε μια τέτοια διαδικασία με διαιτητές του NBA. Απλά επειδή πολλοί κόσμος δεν το ξέρει και σε αυτά αναφέρθηκε. Πάμε, προχωράμε.
Rick, please allow us to read some questions and some greetings of our followers who are watching this show. Mr. Vangelis Kale, one question only. How was Al Attles as a teammate and how was he as a coach?
Well, Al was a great person. He's a great person first and foremost, and he was good. He was my roommate as a rookie because back in those days we had two people to a room. Everybody has a single room nowadays, and of course we stayed at lousy hotels, and now they stay at the Ritz-Carltons and all the fancy hotels. And I joke, you're going to have to translate, I guess, but I give credit to Al for helping make me the player I was, because having to room with him, I was the rookie, he's the veteran. So if he wanted the room hot, the room was hot. If he wanted to watch a TV show, that's the TV show I had to watch. And then one day I walk in and I see the worst smell. It was worse than rotten eggs. It was so vile. I said, "What in the world is that, Al?" And he said, "I'm shaving." The black men, when they couldn't use a razor because they would get bumps on their skin. So they had this thing called Magic Shave. That was some of the worst smelling stuff ever that really took the hair off. And then they used a knife just to take and bring it off and get the hair out. And so I tell everybody, I said, you know what? I'm going to have to just play so good that I'm going to go in and be able to negotiate a single room next year. And so I credit Al Attles for giving me that incentive. And as a coach, he was terrific. He could relate to you. It was nice to know he was there to have your back. He was a very tough guy known as the Destroyer. And so, so he was great on all accounts.
Στην ερώτηση του Βαγγέλη Σκάλε, του τηλεθεατή μας, πώς ήταν ο Al Attles σαν συμπαίκτης και πώς σαν προπονητής, να πούμε ότι ο Al Attles ήταν ένας ήδη βετεράνος παίκτης, συμπαίκτης του τότε στους Golden State, ο οποίος τον είχε πάρει σε εισαγωγικά υπό την προστασία του το Rick και μένανε μαζί στα ξενοδοχεία στις αποστολές, ήταν συγκάτοικοι. Όμως εκεί βίωσε πραγματικά τι σημαίνει να είσαι ρούκι, δηλαδή ψάρακλας που λέμε εδώ πέρα ελληνιστή. Όποτε και σε όποια θερμοκρασία γούσταρε ο Al Attles έμπαινε το καλοριφέρ, ό,τι ώρα ήθελε θα κοιμόταν και θα έσβηνε τα φώτα, αλλά η χειρότερη του εμπειρία ήταν ο αφρός ξυρίσματος, τον οποίο χρησιμοποιούσε ο Al Attles τότε, μύριζε τόσο πολύ άσχημα που πραγματικά έπεισε τότε ο Rick Barry τον εαυτό του ότι πρέπει να κάνω μια σούπερ τρομερή χρονιά ώστε να έχω στην επόμενη σεζόν τη δύναμη και το κύρος να ζητήσω στις αποστολές πλέον να μένω μόνος μου στο δωμάτιο χωρίς κανένα συγκάτοικο τύπου Al Attles, με τον οποίο βέβαια ήταν πάρα πολύ καλοί φίλοι. Αργότερα έγινε και παίκτης του Al Attles. Είπε συγκεκριμένα ότι ένας θαυμάσιος άνθρωπος, ένας εκπληκτικός προπονητής με τον οποίο συνεργάστηκαν πάρα πολύ καλά. Another question from Mr. Valantis Papas. Can we relate your era back then with today's era? Is this possible, Rick?
No, I think you have to just accept every era during its own particular era. I mean, I think that there's such a difference in today's game to our game as far as what's available to the players. People have said to me, Rick, you guys couldn't play with these guys today. And I actually almost start laughing because I said, do you understand how much better I would be if I was playing today? What the players today have available to them with the sophistication of the training, everything is sports specific. We had no training. We only had a trainer to tape your ankles, and if you got hurt, he was there to help you. We had no weight training, no strength training, no agility training. We didn't have dietitians. We didn't have anything. And we traveled commercial. We would get done with the game and go to bed at 2 a.m, get up at 6 to catch a commercial flight to the next city. These guys fly on chartered planes after a game. They get good night's sleep. They have dietitians. They have everything in the world working for them. They have drinks before they work out, drinks after they work out. I would be faster, stronger, quicker, more endurance, jump higher. I would be so much better a basketball player if I was playing today. And that's the difference. And the biggest of the difference is that we knew how to play the right way. Now, there are guys who do it today that do it, but there's a lot of guys out there who really don't have a clue about how to play the game the proper way.
Στην ερώτηση του τηλεθεατή μας, του κυρίου Βαλάντη Παπά, αν μπορεί ο Ρικ Μπάρι να συγκρίνει την τότε εποχή με την τωρινή, ομολογώ πως είναι ο πρώτος που τολμά, γιατί γνωρίζει να στοιχειοθετήσει την απάντησή του, να συγκρίνει μια εποχή πολύ μακρινή σε σχέση με τη σημερινή. Οι πιο πολλοί λένε άλλη εποχή, άλλοι σωματότυποι, το προσπερνάνε έτσι. Μας ανέφερε ρητός και κατηγορηματικός ο Ρικ Μπάρι. Ναι, τολμώ να τη συγκρίνω και ένα θα σας πω, ότι εγώ θα ήμουν ένας πολύ καλύτερος παίκτης σήμερα με όλες τις παροχές που έχουν οι σημερινοί παίκτες από ό,τι ήμουν τότε. Τότε δεν είχαμε γυμναστή, δεν είχαμε διαιτολόγο, πηγαίναμε στις αποστολές και στα παιχνίδια τα εκτός έδρας με τις απλές πτήσεις που πήγαινε όλος ο κόσμος. Πολλές φορές τελειώναμε παιχνίδι μεσάνυχτα, μέχρι να μαζευτούμε να κάνουμε μπάνιο πήγαινε 2 τα χαράματα, και στις 6 ώρα το πρωί έπρεπε να πιάσουμε την πτήση τη συγκεκριμένη να πάμε πίσω στην έδρα μας, από τη στιγμή που σήμερα οι σημερινοί μπασκετμπολίστες μένουν στα ωραιότερα ξενοδοχεία, έχουν ένα κάρο assistant coaches, βοηθούς προπονητές, έχουν διαιτολόγους, έχουν όσους φυσικοθεραπευτές, έχουν μέντορες, πετάνε με πτήσεις charter, μπορούν και κοιμούνται τα βράδια, πράγμα που εμείς δεν κοιμόμασταν. Πλέον η τεχνολογία έχει μπει στο μπάσκετ και τους διευκολύνει πάρα πολύ στο να γίνουν καλύτεροι παίκτες, αλλά παρόλα τα αυτά μας επισημαίνει ότι ολοένα και λιγότεροι κανονικοί μπασκετμπολίστες υπάρχουν στην Αμερική και στο NBA σήμερα παρά στην εποχή τη δική του. Υπάρχουν κάποια παιδιά, κάποιοι αθλητές που είναι γνώστες του μπάσκετ, αλλά οι περισσότεροι δεν κατέχουν το άθλημα, τα βασικά εννοεί προφανώς, και απλά πάλι προφανώς παίζουν περισσότερο με την αθλητικότητά τους. Γιώργο Καρούλια.
Mr. Barry, you were talking about, I would like to ask you something about the three-point shot. I believe, I think in the ABA there was a three-point shot when you were playing.
Yes.
So you knew about it. So it wasn't like the NBA where people didn't even know what the three-point shot is. And many people today don't like the fact that they're saying, oh, players today shoot too many threes. There's not the fight down below the rim. What is your opinion about that, the three-point shot in general?
Well, I think it was good for the game. I think it made it more exciting, but I think that it was not used effectively. It was too many players were shooting threes that had no business shooting threes. To me, if you can't shoot at least 30% from three-point range, you have no business shooting three-point shots. Because 33% is equivalent to 50%. So 30% is, in the mid-40s, which is fine and acceptable. And, now today you have guys that are shooting, like Steph and a lot of those guys, and actually a couple of my sons, shoot in the 40s, which is remarkable. And so it is very exciting. But I do think, like anything else in life, too much of something is no good. And the Warriors cost them the championship, the three-point shot. In the game against, when they played Cleveland, when Cleveland won that one series, in the last 4 minutes and 29 seconds of the Game 7, fourth quarter, other than the breakaway by Iguodala that LeBron James made the block that saved them and gave them the series, gave them a chance to win the championship, every shot they took was a three-point shot. It was ridiculous. I mean, you're at home in the Game 7. Go to the freaking basket. And, Steph, Clay, drive, get to the free throw line, put some points on the board, make the other team play from behind. And they just killed themselves with the three-point shot, and it cost them a championship. So, like anything else in life, too much of something is no good. And I agree. I mean, come on, they're shooting this crazy numbers. I mean, the Houston Rockets, D'Antoni turned them loose. Those guys are shooting so many three-point shots. And, I always believe that, the way to play inside out. Well, you don't hardly have any centers. I mean, a lot of the games played, you have everybody playing you have 5 guys on the perimeter. They don't even have a center in the game. It's the game has changed in that regard. They really, really has. And if you have a big guy, you can take advantage of that inside and you can kick it out. And if you have some good shooters, you have to have some good 3-point shooters on your team now if you expect to win. Because if you can't shoot the 3 worth a darn, you're not going to win a lot of games in the NBA nowadays.
Do you think, a small question, μπορώ, Χρήστο, θα με τρέψεις, είναι πολύ μικρή. Το κατάλαβα. About that, do you think that the big men in the NBA nowadays have evolved or disappeared?
No, they're disappearing. I mean, the guys don't hardly ever play with their back to the basket anymore. I mean, but here's the thing. When I coached, you can still have an inside game. It doesn't have to be a center. I mean, it does not have to be a center. In fact, if I was coaching the Warriors when Baron Davis was playing there, Baron was really good inside. So who better to post up a smaller guard that he can take advantage of than a guy that if he got double teamed is a great passer. I had a couple of 6'3" and 6'4" guys that when I coached in the minor leagues, that I post them up all the time. They would kill people in the post. So, I don't know. I just don't understand why you don't want to take advantage of a player's skills. But a lot of players that aren't working at it, all these 7-footers all want to go out and shoot 3-point shots right now.
Στην ερώτηση του Γιώργου του Καρούλια σε σχέση με τη χρήση του τρίποντου, ιδρύθηκε το τρίποντο στο NBA αλλά και κατ' επέκταση στο παγκόσμιο μπάσκετ, ο Ρικ Μπέρι μας είπε ξεκάθαρα ότι η υπέρχρηση είναι πάντοτε κάτι το αρνητικό. Δεν ωφελεί και μάλιστα μας ανέφερε μια συγκεκριμένη σειρά play-off όπου οι Golden State Warriors την πλήρωσαν απέναντι στους Cleveland Cavaliers λέγοντας ότι στο 7ο παιχνίδι μέσα στο Golden State, στο Oakland, το χάσανε επειδή στα τελευταία 4,5 λεπτά σουτάρανε μόνο τρίποντα. Σίγουρα η υπερβολή είναι πάντοτε κάτι το αρνητικό, δεν ωφελεί πουθενά, όμως το τρίποντο παρόλα τα αυτά έχει μετατρέψει το άθλημα προς το συναρπαστικότερο. Από την άλλη, η δεύτερη ερώτηση του Γιώργου του Καρούλια, πολύ κέρια που ήθελα και εγώ να τη ρωτήσω μετά, ήταν τι γίνεται με τους ψηλούς. Εμείς ξέραμε όλοι ότι το μπάσκετ είναι το άθλημα κατά κόρον των ψηλών. Πλέον δεν παίζουν ψηλοί ή, να το πω εγώ έτσι ελληνιστή, τους έχουμε σαν τα τρόλεϊ όπως έλεγε ο Βασίλης ο Γκούμας παλιότερα. Λοιπόν, μας είπε ο Ρικ Μπάρι ότι ναι, πλέον οι ψηλοί δεν χρησιμοποιούνται και αν χρησιμοποιούνται έχουν μπει και αυτοί στο τρυπάκι του να σου τέρνω τρίποντο, αλλά δεν είναι, το post-up παιχνίδι στο low post μας είπε επιπλέον ο Ρικ Μπάρι δεν θα έπρεπε να είναι μόνο προνόμιο των ψηλών. Ο ίδιος όταν coachare σε minor leagues κάποιους παίκτες τους το 1.90, 1.93, 1.95 που είχαν τη δυνατότητα και τους άρεσε η επαφή, τους χρησιμοποιούσε κατά κόρον στο χαμηλό post, πράγμα που μας το έχουν επισημάνει πάρα πολλοί φίλοι προπονητές και εσείς εδώ εκπομπές μας. Χάρη.
Let me just add one thing before you go on. I was never, I was a scorer. I had to learn to shoot the 3-point. I would never shoot from that far out, ever, before it came here, before I went to the ABA. So I had to learn to be able to shoot from that distance. And I got to myself where I was a 33% shooter from there, which is equivalent to 50, which was, which is fine. But the thing is that if I were playing today, I would not be satisfied with 33%. I would work on it and practice enough. I would want to be a 40% or better 3-point shooter.
Αυτό που μας επισήμανε επιπλέον ο Ρικ Μπάρι είναι ότι στο ABA όταν μπήκε κάποια στιγμή το τρίποντο, δεν πολύ αισθανόταν άνετα με την απόσταση. Σούταρε βέβαια, το έμαθε. Κάποια στιγμή και στο NBA έφτασε στην καριέρα του να σουτάρει με περίπου 33-30 κάτι της 100, αλλά και πάλι δεν του πολύ άρεσε το τρίποντο και σήμερα αν έπαιζε θα προτιμούσε αυτό που λέμε όλοι εμείς στην Ελλάδα, το στυλ παιχνιδιού του Νίκου του Γκάλι, αυτό το σουτ μεσαίας απόστασης που δυστυχώς εγώ θα το καταγγείλω απόψε μπασκετικά πάντοτε, χωρίς μορφή κανενός προσώπου. Πάρα πολλοί προπονητές αναπτυξιακών ηλικιών, Χάρη Γλάρε και Γιώργο Καρούλια, απαγορεύουν στους νεαρούς παίκτες 14, 15, 16 χρονών να σουτάρουν σουτ μεσαίας απόστασης. Μιλάμε για έγκλημα εκ προμελέτης, πάντοτε κατά την άποψή μας, αλλά και κατά την άποψη του θρύλου Ρικ Μπάρι, των 26.000 πόντων στην καριέρα του και των 8 παρουσιών σε All-Star παιχνίδια του NBA. Χάρη.
Να πω εδώ ότι παρόλο που θυμάται για 30 κάτι τα 100 στα play-off του ABA, είχε πάνω από 40% στο τρίποντο. Είναι λίγο ταπεινός.
Harry is mentioning now that you're too humble. You shot over 40% in the playoffs from the three-point line. You're not like in the 30s. You were way over 40s. We got the stats.
Yeah, well, no. For my career, I was more of a 33. I mean, I was better at the end of my career. I mean, I know that I had the record in the NBA for a while. I made 8 out of 12 free throws, 3-pointers. I mean, so I was. I could shoot them later in my career, but I didn't get to shoot that much later in my career. Anyway, we got to do some quick things here because I have a Christmas party. We have a block party at our place, and we're having a big outdoor Christmas party coming up here.
Sure, so we have 10 more minutes from us too.
All right, that's great.
So,
should
I go to my last question? Nice. So, Rick, do you watch any European basketball or you watch only NBA?
No, the only European basketball I watched is when my sons were playing. My son Drew played over in Poland and other places. My son Scooter played all over the place. He played in Spain. He played in France. He played in Italy. I mean, it was in Sicily actually. He played in Sicily. He played in Australia. He played all over the place. A lot of cities in Germany as well. So, and I used to go over there and see that, and watch them. And then, but I don't watch it. No, I don't. I mean, I see sometimes highlights. Somebody has some things on there, but I don't watch it. But the quality of play has improved dramatically over the years. There's no question about it. And there's a lot of good basketball and obviously a lot of great players playing all around the world. I mean, look at how many players are foreign players that are playing in the NBA today.
One last question from me. Giannis Antetokounmpo, your opinion?
I love him. I mean, he's such an athlete. He can shoot the ball. He does play inside. He can get to the basket. He blocks shots. I mean, to me, I always want to have a great big man if possible. I mean, in my championship year when we had the team there, our team, we kind of had a two-headed monster. We had Clifford Ray, who was physical, and he could jump out at screens and guard the guards and just beat people up. And then we had George Johnson, who was finesse and block shots. And between them, we had 12 fouls to use. Between the two of them, they put up, kind of like big man's great numbers. I mean, double digits and rebounds and, good points and two different styles of play. So it worked really well for us. But there's always room for a really great big man. And I think the one thing about Giannis is that he has such versatility. I mean, he isn't a guy that just was trying to go outside like Dirk Nowitzki, okay? I mean, I always wondered, why would he not get a low post game? My God, I mean, he would always have guys guarding him that were so much smaller than him. If you had a low post game, you go inside and just abuse somebody in the post and just make the team a better team and make you a better all-around player. Now, he was a great player. He'll be a Hall of Fame player. There's no question about that. But he never developed a low post game. I said the same thing about LeBron. And finally, they started using LeBron and sticking him down in the post. I mean, it doesn't have to be a center who is a low post player. You should learn to play inside and out.
Στην ερώτησή μου, Γιάννης Αντετοκούμπο, απλά το ονοματεπώνυμο του Γιάννη, μας είπε ξεκάθαρα, μου λέει τον αγαπώ πάρα πολύ. Είναι ένας παίκτης όπως φαντάζομαι εγώ το σύγχρονο μπασκετμπολίστα, ο οποίος μπορεί να παίξει και μέσα και έξω, είναι εξαιρετικός αθλητής, αλλά και πάλι ο Ρικ Μπάρι μας επισημαίνει την αξία όλοι οι παίκτες, όχι μόνο οι υψηλοί, να μπορούν να παίξουν και να δημιουργούν και να παράγουν από το χαμηλό post. Εν αντιθέσει με τον Νοβίτσκι, ο οποίος ναι θα γίνει Hall of Famer, ναι είναι τεράστιος με τεράστια καριέρα, αυτό το πράγμα του έλειπε. Απέφευγε να δημιουργήσει την επαφή στο χαμηλό post και όλοι θυμόμαστε ότι έβγαζε το ψωμί του με αυτό το περίφημο fade away. Πριν περάσω στην κλήρωση, Γιώργο Καρούλια, σε παρακαλώ μια τελευταία αλλά σύντομη ερώτηση.
I would like to ask you, at first I wanted to ask you about the championship in 1975, but I believe that a better lesson for us too is about what happened in 1976 and the aftermath of that. I think you know about what I'm talking about. And I believe there was an article in 1983 in the Sports Illustrated. I believe you know it better than us, that the rumor was, and I believe it was a rumor, that you weren't what we say a likable fellow. Though there were your teammates like Clifford Ray, like Butch Beard, like Al Attles that say, you know what, Rick is a misunderstood guy. He's not what you're saying. He may look like arrogant on the field, but outside the field, he's an amazing human being. And I would like to ask you, how do you judge yourself back then, right now, back then? And do you think you were over the top? Do you think you were misunderstood? What would you tell the future generation about what you were back then?
Well, I've always think I've been a good person. I would tell people that said, you would want to have me as your friend. I'm a good person. I'm a good friend. I'm a great friend. And I was a tough teammate. I mean, I was demanding of my teammates. I'm not going to let somebody slack off and not go out there and give their best effort because I was all about winning. And the guys that knew me understood that. It was all coming from outside people who didn't know me, people who've written things about me, said things about me that really hurt my feelings a lot, who never spent any time with me. And they just read something from someone else. And I'm portrayed as, not being a very nice person. But the people who know me know that that's not true. And I know it's not true. So that's a good thing. But it's unfortunate that so many people have the opinion, but they keep bringing it up all the time. I mean, it's just one of those crazy things. And, you learn to live with it. But here's the deal. When I went out to play, I didn't go out to make friends. I went out there, excuse my language, to kick your ass.
Exactly.
Okay? And so I was not trying to be friendly. And the perfect example of what happened is that I should have been the most valuable player in 1974-75 season. Okay. But they changed the voting from the writers to the players. Not only did I not come in first, I didn't even come in second. And that's why, because I went out there to beat you and the players didn't like me because I didn't want to be your friend. You're my opponent. I didn't care whether you liked me or not. And so the true indication is that when they voted for the All-Pro team, I was the only unanimous choice for the NBA First Team All-Pro, which kind of tells you that I would have been MVP if the writers had been voting. And so I know that in my heart I was, but unfortunately it didn't work out because of the stupid voting thing that they had, and they changed it back to the writers again because they realized that the players are going to allow their emotions to get into it and not look at it, objectively. So, it hurt my feelings, but I know I'm a good person and, I have to deal with it. I mean, I hear about it all the time. They just had something on television again with, who was it? Malcolm Gladwell, who's a very famous writer and person over here who does a lot of things, a lot of writing, not necessarily a sports guy per se. And Bill Simmons, who's known for things and wrote books about basketball. And Bill Simmons in his book one time, excuse the language again, called me a dick. Okay. And Bill Simmons has never met me and spent any time at all with me. And so that's the kind of stuff that really kind of hurts. I mean, don't believe everything. And then they took something that my teammates said, and they said it jokingly, like Billy, who was it? Mike Dunleavy. Coach
yes.
Mike Dunleavy said if Rick was at the UN, he'd start World War III. Okay, but he said it jokingly. I mean, seriously, because because I was always truthful and I didn't BS and I didn't try to camouflage things. I told you what I felt and I've always been honest. But my wife said I'm brutally honest. He said that's the problem. He says, honey, you got to get rid of the brutality with your honesty. And then the same thing with Billy Pauls. He said it joking. He said, yeah, half the players in the league don't like Rick. The other half hate him. I mean, so they took stuff like that said by guys who did it and said it in a humorous manner. And they made it like they were dead serious about it. And that has stuck with me for my entire life. But, it's okay. It's, as I say, I know who I am today. And the people who know me know who I am.
Rick, the whole basketball world knows exactly who you are. Your journey into our game is very well known. Of course, yellow journalism, as we call it here in Greece, always exists and it will be existing in the ages of ages, as well as jealousy from other mediocre, perhaps players, either from our teammates or from opponents, because many want to take the guy who stands at the top down because they cannot reach that high where he's at.
Oh, no, I agree with you 100%. In fact, the funny thing about this is that when I played, I just went out to play. I had no idea some of the things that I did other than my free throws, because that's the only part you can be selfish and help your team, right? Because you can just be totally worried about yourself and you're helping your team. Because of statistics have become such a part of sports nowadays. They bring up stuff. I have seen so many things over the last 5 years where my name pops up on USA Today or on a television broadcast or something, and there's this thing happened. Hey, this guy just did that. And then all of a sudden, there's me who had done it already. I mean, I didn't even realize that I did all of the things that I did, and it's kind of blew me away. I mean, the one that blew me away more than anything else is that, and most people would never guess me, is the person who has the highest career scoring average in NBA Finals is me. Mm-hmm. I had no idea. So stuff like that, it's just it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, we stressed through our social media of all your accolades and your achievements. Perhaps Greek basketball fans know nowadays much more about the legendary Rick Barry than than the average American.
Yeah, well, it was fun. I always loved talking basketball, and I could certainly go on forever. But I got to get to my party. And after we're off the air, you got to get back. You have to get back to me because I want to get your email address because I'll talk to you once we shut the show off. Okay?
Sure. So, Rick, give me please 5 more seconds. I need 2 numbers from 1 to 22. Where in order for us to decide to see who is going to win this basketbook uniform and the basketball cap. We're donating as gift tonight. Please give us 2 numbers from 1 to 22.
Okay, I'll give you number 10, which was my son's scooter, my first son's number. And I think I'll go with the number that probably nobody would pick. I'll pick unlucky 13.
Okay, so it's 10 and 13. Αν μας ακούει ο Ζώης ο Βουλαλάς που κάνει την κλήρωση, οι αριθμοί 10 και 13, αν έχουμε τους νικητές να τους ανακοινώσουμε στα γρήγορα. Ζώη, τους έχουμε, μου τους στέλνεις? Οκ, θα τους έχουμε στην πορεία, θα τους ανακοινώσουμε.
Ας αφήσουμε το Rick, να χαιρετήσουμε το Rick.
Rick Barry, it was a great pleasure. It was an honor, for us to be with us tonight. We felt that we should introduce you further to the Greek public, Greek basketball fans. You cannot imagine how many messages and how many thousands of fans are watched us tonight. I will get in touch with you. We will keep in touch with you through Kostas Molonis. We'll exchange emails and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much. Enjoy the party down in Florida. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Well, the same to you and all of your listeners. And hopefully we'll get rid of this crazy COVID stuff and get back to some sense of normalcy. And hopefully I'll get to see you when if the cruise goes through and I get over to Athens. That would be great.
We can arrange the cruise here. We can arrange many things for you. It would be our pleasure. We can do many more things. We'll talk about that in person. Αγαπητοί τηλεθεατές, αγαπητοί μας μπασκετόφιλοι, η απόψινή εκπομπή μας με ένα θρύλο του NBA, το Rick Barry, έφτασε στο τέλος της. Ευχαριστώ το Χάρη το Γλάρο, το συνδιαχειριστή μου στο Basketbook, το γκανιάν μας, το όπλο μας, τη γραφίδα μας, το Γιώργο τον Καρούλια. Τον ευχαριστώ και αυτόν πολύ. Επανερχόμαστε δυναμικοί την εβδομάδα των Χριστουγέννων. Θα σας κρατήσουμε παρέα κάποιες μέρες, γιατί θα μας δίνουν όλους οι γυναίκες μας. Έτσι, τα λέμε στην ερχόμενη εβδομάδα. Καλή σας νύχτα και να αγαπάμε όλοι το μπάσκετ.